I'd like to call the City of North Ridgeville Planning Commission meeting for June 13th to order. Everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Secretary, please call roll.
Members of the board: Ali,
Present.
Grotman,
Present.
Schumann,
Here.
Abens,
Here.
Smolik.
Here.
Members of the administration: Chief Building Official Fursden,
Here.
Assistant Law Director Morgan,
Here.
Planning and Development Director Lieber,
Here.
City Engineer Evanson.
Here.
Has everyone had a chance to review the meeting minutes from May 9th, 2023? Is there any corrections at this time? Hearing none, those minutes shall stand. We have some administrative approvals. Economic Development Director Kim, do you want to?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Two approvals occurred in the last month. One was a zoning certificate for it's a hard word to say, Transcendence Health LLC at 36591 Center Ridge Road. The other was administrative planning approval for Sagamore Companies of their work trailer at their leased property at Beckett. That will involve the installation of some additional landscaping on that site. This unit has been in place for quite a few years. The applicant has been made aware that they further need to seek building department approval for a permit for the unit and for any utility work that was done there in the past.
Okay, thank you. All right, the City of North Ridgeville had a steering committee meeting number 5 on June 7th, 2023. Some of the stuff we discussed was some case studies of other communities that are similar bedroom communities. Those were Dublin, Ohio, South Lake, Texas, Carmel, Indiana. And what we looked at was a town center feature, which sort of is going to be looked at here at North Ridgeville, at Route 83 and Center Ridge. Also, there was another concept we explored, which is a neighborhood town center. A good example would be like Route 83 and Mills Road, the Bistro 83 Plaza. So similar to that, we explored areas throughout the town where maybe another similar situation like that might happen. The city is having a Ready to Imagine Town Center pop-up party. That is July 20th, right out here in the front lawn of City Hall. And that's going to be further exploring the town center concept. So I encourage everyone, invite everyone to go attend, and that way you could voice your opinion on this subject. The master plan is very important because if development continues in the current progress, we're going to be out of land in 10 years. So we have to be smart about it with what land we have left. Okay, that's it for that. All right. Madam Secretary, you want to read the first applicant?
PPZ 2023-0193 Veterans Memorial Park 7565 Avon Belden Road, PPN 07-00-022-101-059. Proposal consists of constructing Veterans Memorial Park on land in South Central Park owned by the City of North Ridgeville. Property zoned R1 Residence District.
Okay, is there an applicant here to discuss this project? Yeah, just please come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and tell us a little bit about your project.
Name's Mark Steinbrenner, 37400 Sugar Creek Lane. And a little bit about our project. A few years back, the city was nice enough. I reached out to, at that time, Councilman Leske, and to see if we can get a plot of land to build this memorial. It was something that the city needed, and we have a ton of veterans in this city, so it seemed appropriate that we build one. And then we did get with a landscaper, and with our design, it's going to be, of course, it's going to be on the corner of Route 83 across the street here on Bainbridge Road. It's going to incorporate a walkway. We're going to attach it to the existing walkway that goes through South Central Park. It's going to kind of wind its way through. We're going to have some mounds to kind of enclose it a little bit. We're going to add a few trees. We're going to, as we walk through the walkway, it's going to take us around to the flag display. We're going to have every service flag and the United States flag, the Ohio flag, the POW flag. Around there, we're going to have, of course, that will be lit up. Around there, we are selling pavers throughout the city, so we're allowing veterans throughout the city to put their names out onto the display also. As you come around, there's going to be stones going into a circle. We're going to have a conflict stone, so every conflict the United States has been in, we're going to have a stone for that. And then we're also going to have a fountain. It's more of a water source fountain, and on that fountain, we'll get more into that, but on the fountain, it's going to have the engraved of every North Ridgeville citizen who gave the last full measure to the country. It's going to incorporate a nice landscape. Is there anything else you'd like to hear about it? Or?
No, I think that was good. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Does any of the commission members have any questions or comments? Okay. Is there any members of the audience with some questions or comments? Go ahead to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and just tell us what your question or comment is.
My name is Elaine Schroeder. I live at 7416 Avon Belden Road, which is directly across from this park that they're putting in. One, I have a question. If it already is city-owned property, why are they rezoning it?
It's my understanding it's not being rezoned.
Okay, well, according to my letter, that's what it says. The other thing is I know you guys are putting in lights, and I'm all in favor of cleaning up that corner. It's horrible. Because I live right across the street, I'm hoping that the lights are not going to shine in my windows. Okay?
If you want to officially state the answer to that, so that way we... All right, just state your name and address for the record.
Keith Martin with MBD Homes, a general contractor for that. We're located on 39186 Center Ridge Road. So the lighting that we're referring to is more just uplighting for the flags only. So the biggest concern we have is for vandalism at night, which that's open for interpretation with the city as we move forward. But of course, we don't want to be a burden. So the city will be taking responsibility for this once we're completed with it. So from what I understand, the lights probably will not be there. So I don't think you will have an issue with lighting up your house. We don't want to light your house up. We want to just have the focal point of the flags only. And I would assume there'll be dusk to dawn. Correct, correct.
Thank you.
All right,
Mr.
thank you.
Chairman. Go ahead.
I have a question, and I apologize. I'm new on the commission, and although I have served on commissions in other communities, I just have a question as to form here. So I noticed, not just on this one, but on almost all the applicants, there were, first off, this is a recommending body, so we're going to recommend to council, correct? That's how that works. I guess it's for both the law director and the planning director, right? So now the thing is, I noticed on your notes that there were on some of these there were questions about having all the stuff in for lighting and for landscaping on a few of these, right? So I guess the question is, do we have it within our purview to make it a condition to have an administrative review on those parts? Is that something we do here?
I guess I'll answer part of it.
Okay.
Yeah, if there's something we could, there's a lot of times there's a conditional approval if there's
Okay.
something on there. But there's also times where, like lighting and stuff, they'll do administrative approval.
Okay, so that has been done before.
Yeah, that's just standard, and I think, I don't know if
Okay.
Kim, you want to elaborate a little bit more on that, or?
I think just in this particular project, I would recommend that Planning Commission include a condition of approval that the final plant selections are reviewed with the Parks and Recreation staff and approved prior to installation. We're aware that they're subject a bit to the availability of their donors. We're very sensitive to that. We just want to make sure that the plants they select are appropriate for the soils, and that they're not going to create a maintenance burden for long-term for the parks. So in this case, that is the one condition I would recommend for this project. I would just point out that the woods that abuts Avon Belden, that wooded area, very, like, any tree clearing has mostly been done. Most of those woods are gonna remain with this project. So for residents who live on the opposite side of Avon Belden, those trees are really gonna stay there as a buffer for lights and for activity. So if you.
So it's not gonna be totally clear?
No. So if you look up at the screen, you can see where the plaza is, the round centerpiece. And then if you see the kind of the fluffy outline to the left, to the west side, around that open piece, those are existing trees to remain. So that whole open area is really not gonna be touched, other than maybe in the future there might be a sidewalk carried out to Avon Belden, but that's a future phase.
There is a sidewalk there already.
Along Avon Belden, but not to the memorial.
Oh, okay.
Right. So that should help with the lights as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if I could, if there's anything in the ordinances, we don't have to specifically approve it. They're still subject to it. Our approval is always subject to any ordinances as well. But at the pre-meeting, they indicated they had no problem with Parks and Recs giving some ultimate approval to the landscaping.
You're referring to like the building department, that kind of stuff, for,
Building ordinances, zoning ordinance,
Okay.
engineering,
sure,
whatever it takes, they're always subject to those that are on the books.
I understand. Thank you very much, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, is there any other further questions or comments from the general audience? Go ahead, Councilman.
Dennis Booth, 6405 Denise Drive, North Ridgeville, Ohio. As a member of the North Ridgeville Park and Rec Commission, they did come before the commission a couple of months ago, and we approved a recommendation for a fully funded project. At that time, the project was not fully funded, and so just want to make sure that that's the case today. There's a couple of pieces of information about the funding and the cost of the project that aren't the same within the document. On the North Ridgeville Veterans Memorial page, it says that their goal for the group was to raise $345,000, and they have generated $287,000. But then on the proposal summary, it shows that the total investment summary is only about $245,000, which means that they would have reached that goal. So I guess my one question would be, because it was the main issue with the commission, that the project today is fully funded. So it's my understanding that they were able to lower the cost of some of the things that they were originally going to do. Other than that, it's a wonderful project. They did it the right way. They organized. They created a 501c3. They did all the things they needed to do. They went for grants. And so, very fully behind the project, as long as it's fully funded. Thank you.
I guess my question is for the law department. Financial disclosure in a public meeting, does that have to go to executive session, or is that something they can announce publicly?
No, they can announce their funding if they choose to.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman.
go ahead.
One of the reasons that's important to the commission was that this is being built on the city's land. And so if you were doing it on private property with a private contractor and such, they would have the wherewithal that if they ran out of money, they'd have to do something to come up with it. It's not as easy for a nonprofit organization to do that on city-owned property. And so the task is to make sure that at the end of the day, the city doesn't have to come up with some money to finish the project. But again, they've done a great job, and looking forward to the project being completed. Thank you.
I guess, does the applicant want to sort of indicate where they sit financially as funding this project?
So what Mr. Booz is talking about, obviously, was when I first took on the project, obviously, we had just only one bids at that time for each trade. Since I took over, I got numerous bids from numerous contractors, and we received more donations for free work and stuff to that nature. So that's where we were able to get those cost downs, majority of it, and then we did make some concessions on the overall project, which taking out the walkway, 283. We deleted that, and we did some shortening on the fountain, which we agreed was different products on that to get the cost down. So that's where we were able to get the cost down dramatically.
So I guess the ultimate question, is it funded?
It is funded, correct, yes. They have a piggy bank of roughly with the county and the state, and with the donations, we were at 298,000 and some change, I believe, and we came in at 245, like Mr. Booth said, which I presented that to you guys to show that. So we do have excess for that variable, which we will obviously look at, which me as a general contractor and working with the city, we have to monitor that, so correct. We are on page right now to achieve that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Is there any further questions or comments from the general public?
Jim Molesky, 6088 West Breezeway. I'm the treasurer of the group. Exactly what Keith's saying is correct, but just wanted to be completely transparent. $100,000 of it is it was a grant through Nate Manning got us through the Ohio State budget, and the city actually has control over that. They'll be giving us part of that money. So in our actual bank accounts, 194,000. That 100,000 is going to be in the hands of the city. And last I talked to the mayor about 2 weeks ago, that we were still waiting for that money to come in. So, but that's where the other portion of it is coming from. So if you were to look up our actual finances, it's going to look at 194, and the other 100's coming from the state that the city will have control over.
Okay, thank you. Is there any further question or comments from the general public? Hearing none, at this time, I will close general public comments. Is there any questions or comments from the administration? All right, hearing none. Is there any further questions or comments from the commission?
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
question I would have is, looks like a great project. Who's going to be responsible for maintaining this? Is it our Parks Department, or, so that means the flags and all that kind of stuff?
Mr. President?
Go ahead, Councilman.
Yeah, one of the, just as Ms. Lieber had stated, one of the reasons that, again, since it's on city property, once it's done, the city owns it. And so they'll have to maintain it. So one of the reasons we want to make sure that we review the plantings and such is to make sure they're low maintenance and that we can take care of it. But it will be the city's responsibility. Thank you.
Is there any other further questions or comments from the commission? All right, hearing none, the chair will entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the Veterans Memorial Park project.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Madam Secretary, call roll.
Mr. Chairman.
Discussion?
I'm sorry, but so are we including wording about the condition that Director Lieber mentioned?
You could add a condition on to the motion.
All right, should I, at this point?
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I thought that Ms. Lieber said that because they have to abide by the procedures and that sort of thing for the city, that we don't have to do that. I guess I misunderstood.
I think it couldn't hurt to add a condition of approval that final plant selections are approved by Parks and Rec.
Okay. Then I'll amend my motion that this has to be approved by Parks and Rec. Is that good enough? Okay.
Okay, do I have a second on the amended motion?
I will second it.
Okay, discussion. Hearing none, chair will Madam Secretary, call roll.
Ali,
Yes.
Grotman,
Yes.
Schuman,
Yes.
Abens,
Yes.
Smolik.
I have to abstain. I have a family member on the executive committee.
Motion carries.
Okay. Thank you. Good project, gentlemen.
Good job. Good job.
Yeah, it is.
Congratulations.
All right, Madam Secretary, please read the next applicant.
PPZ 2023-0194, Elite Canine Dog Training, 31740 Cook Road, PPN 07-00-004-110-038 and 07-00-004-110-037. Proposal consists of constructing a 1,130 square foot addition to the rear of the existing kennel and training building in order to provide dog grooming services. property zone B3 Highway Commercial District.
Okay, it's my understanding the applicant revised this submission, and the commission's only at this time looking at the pool and the deck.
That is correct.
Okay, I assume we have the applicant in front of us. Could you please state your name and address for the record? And
Charles
tell us a little
Stella.
bit about your project.
31740 Cook Road, North Ridgeville, Ohio. Looking to get an approval for a dog diving pool with a deck attached to it on the back side of the property. Originally, it was going to be the grooming as well, but obviously we pulled that for now. So I'd like to focus on the pool and the deck itself. So we do dock diving. It's a sport. Dogs jump for distance. And it's a pool specifically designed for dogs. And the deck is designed for, there's a specific distance they have to go with the deck for the pool, for jumping, to qualify.
Okay. Does any of the commission members have any questions or comments? I guess I have a couple questions.
Sure.
Is the pool, and I noticed there's a creek there, is that within the 100-year floodplain? Or
I'm
the-
not
or the
really
pool?
sure about that. I don't know. I don't know about the floodplain for that. I had asked that originally when I first bought the property. And they said that really didn't apply because the creek wasn't maintained. I don't know if that has anything to do with that, but
It'd probably make it worse, but no, I mean,
certainly, yeah. I have seen the water come up pretty high. I mean, we've been there, I've been there 16 years.
and this is an above-ground pool?
It is an above-ground pool. It's 54 inches high.
Okay. All right. And then is the deck is above ground too?
The deck is almost 6 foot in the air, and it's considerably farther away from the creek.
Okay.
The corner of the pool is near the creek, and then it goes away from there.
And then as far as safety fencing, you just have a gate to get up into the deck, or how do you?
Well, my property actually has a 6-foot fence all the way around it,
Oh, it
the
does.
whole property, and then the back area, which my back and my front are separated by the creek. My back area is actually fenced on its own from the front, and then the deck and access to the pool will also be gated. So.
Okay. Is there any other questions or comments from the commission? Is there any questions or comments from the administration?
Mr. Chair, my report had contained comments mostly related to the addition and the parking changes, so those aren't relevant to just this pool addition. I have no objection to this addition so long as its placement meets whatever required setback there might be from the ditch. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I was going to add, Chuck, if you would, I don't think the pool was the focus originally of the submission, and then I would ask during our final engineering review that you add some dimensions to the side yard as well as the ditch, as Mr. Smolik pointed out. I'd like to see some space between that water course and the pool there. And then I can't tell, was there a blow up on the dimension of the pool? Did you have dimensions on the pool as well?
The pool is 30 by 18.
Okay.
And I had it on one of my drawings. I'm not sure if that transferred over or not.
Okay, well, when you submit the package to engineering, I would just ask to make sure all the dimensions are on there as well.
I will do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other further questions or comments from the administration? All right. Is there any questions or comments from the general public? Hearing none, I'll close the comments from the general public. Is there any further questions or comments from the commission? All right, hearing none, the chair will entertain a motion. I'd like to make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Madam Secretary, please call roll.
Ali,
Yes.
Grotman,
Yes.
Schuman,
Yes.
Abens,
Yes.
Smolik.
Yes,
Motion carries.
Thank you.
thank you. All right. Madam Secretary, please read the third applicant for tonight.
PPZ 2023-0195 Chase Bank 34385 Center Ridge Road, PPN 07-00-016-112-067. Proposal consists of constructing a new 3,384 square foot drive-through bank at the corner of Center Ridge Road and Pitts Boulevard, property zone B3 Highway Commercial District.
Okay, is there a member in the audience that represents this project? Hi, please state your name and address for the record, and tell us a little bit about your project.
Hi, my name is Erin Gogolin. I'm with Bowler Engineering. Address is 1 Allegheny Square, Pittsburgh, PA. With me, I have Vaughn Benson. He's with FMS Architects, the architect on the project. I don't know if you have an address you want to give.
Yeah, as she stated, excuse me, Vaughn Benson, FMS Architects, 995 West 3rd Avenue, Columbus, Ohio.
Thank you.
We're here tonight on behalf of JP Morgan Chase Bank to present their application for the construction of a 3,300 square foot, approximately 3,300 square foot bank branch on the corner of Pitts and Center Ridge Boulevard, or Center Ridge Road. As you can see from our site plan, existing today, that driveway is pretty close to the intersection. I think it's probably about 30 feet. We're looking at moving that driveway approximately 170 feet away from the intersection. I went out there before the meeting just to see how close it was, because on our plans you can see one thing, but in real life it's really a lot closer. So a vast improvement there. Our development includes 25 parking spaces, circulation around the building, and an ATM. We're also proposing an underground detention system to attenuate any stormwater management requirements. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you guys have.
Okay, is there any questions or comments from the commission?
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Didn't we have a few months ago a proposal to put a Jiffy Lube or someplace like that in there too? I don't know what the status of that is, but this would be just close to that. Am I correct?
I don't remember the exact location.
The Jiffy Lube project withdrew, so this is in its place.
Okay, thank you.
That answers my question. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
So there were a couple of recommendations from the planning review, including the cross-access agreement. Has that been taken care of yet?
We're in talks with the landlord to obtain that agreement. They're aware of the project, but we don't have that finalized yet.
And then there's a 10-foot plant buffer that it doesn't look like.
We've adjusted the site plan. It's a 15-foot buffer now, and we've
Okay.
also placed a 6-foot high opaque fence to block any light along that residential property.
And the cut sheet for the lights has been, okay, good.
Yeah.
I would like to recommend that we ask to include the agreement as a requirement. Thank you.
Okay, is there any other further questions or comments from the commission?
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
Excuse me. I guess I'm gonna have to ask the question too, is Jiffy Lube pulled out? I would assume that this is a project that has a 90% at least possibility of going through.
I would say more than 90%.
Okay. Thank you.
Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, that's like my front yard, which, I mean, I'd rather see, obviously, this type of project going in versus like a Jiffy Lube for traffic. My main concern is like obviously the landscaping, like buffering, and also like the traffic, the driveways. Because it does get busy in the morning, afternoons, and but it's a better, to me, it's a better fit project, I believe, for that corner right there. Because it does get hectic. It's right in my front yard, so I see it every day. So, but, I mean, it's welcoming to me. Definitely would rather see something like this than another type of business with a lot more volume, a lot more traffic. So, but just, like I said, the landscaping and the driveways, so.
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
I had the pleasure of sitting over there myself yesterday watching the traffic coming out of Giant Eagle, and this is gonna change the traffic pattern a lot. Probably a lot less people are gonna take the cut through because they're gonna have to drive all the way through the bank. So a lot of them are just gonna go out the other way, change pattern a little bit. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. And even I was sitting there for a very short period of time, and cars did back up really quick right at that, because they had to make the quick left turn, and so, and there's no landscaping there now, so what's going in is gonna be better than what's there now, absolutely. Thank you.
I guess I had one comment on wayfinding or navigating through this. The old Giant Eagle went basically straight to Pitts. Now you sort of have to go south and then around. Right at that corner where the Giant Eagle building is, what would be the northwest corner, could we maybe modify the curb there so it's not like a true right angle, it's more like a turn, so it's guiding people. So that way if they're traveling west, then it just made better, easier wayfinding to go directly south. Okay. All right. Is there any questions or comments from the administration?
Mr. Chair, just my appreciation for the applicant working with staff through various site plan iterations to try and connect this piece to the plaza, which doesn't always have the most logical internal traffic circulation. So just to note that even that the parking spaces on that west side of the plaza have also been reoriented, and I think will maybe help internal traffic flow throughout that area. So I think definitely a benefit. So appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay. Is there any other further questions or comments from the administration? All right. Is there any questions or comments from the general public? All right, hearing none. Is there any further questions or comments from the commission? All right, this time the chair will entertain a motion.
Now, I'll make a motion that we recommend approval with the provision that we get a copy of the cross-access agreement. Thank you.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Okay. Madam Secretary, please call roll.
Ali,
Yes.
Brotman,
Yes.
Schuman,
Yes.
Abens,
Yes.
Smolik.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Geez, we got a lot of paper today.
All right. Madam Secretary, please read the fourth applicant.
PPZ 2023-0196, B Cubed, Big B Coffee, 35095 Center Ridge Road, PPN 07-00-021-119-151. Proposal consists of constructing a new 361 square foot drive-through coffee shop at the corner of Center Ridge Road and Ranger Way, property zone B3 Highway Commercial District.
Is there a member in the audience who represent this project? Go ahead, please state your names and address for the record and tell us a little bit about the project.
Michael Surdich, 2440 Woodhawk Lane, Avon. We are a locally based, Lorain County based operator of Big B Coffee franchises. And this is, we're excited for the opportunity to bring the B Cube concept to North Ridgeville. It's a drive-through coffee kiosk project. Primarily, we get our customers through the drive-through window. There is a walk-up window as well. And I have Bennett Weichert with me from Star Incorporated that can talk more as to the physical natures of the project as he's been our lead on a B Cube project before.
Okay.
So Bennett Weichert with Star Design Build out of Amherst, 46405 Telegraph Road. So what we have here is a 361 square foot modular constructed coffee kiosk, as Michael had stated. Primarily drive-through only traffic, a couple employees. And so I believe we worked with Kim, Guy, and Christina's department on the traffic flow within the Aldi Plaza there to make sure that there wasn't any safety issues with cars navigating through the parking lot to enter the drive-through lane, meeting this 10-car stacking requirement, bypass lane, and safely exiting the plaza there, either Center Ridge Road or Ranger Way. So.
Is there any questions or comments from the commission?
I got a couple.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. So, a couple of questions. There was some stuff that came up on the planning review from the director. Have you provided a calculation summary on lighting plan yet? Has that been?
Yes, the lighting plan, photometric plan was provided with cut sheets on the light fixtures for the building. And then there was some modifications made to the landscaping plan. I believe there's even one further modification, as Kim had mentioned, some possible issues with plant diseases across the boxwood blight. So our landscaper suggested a good alternate to be the green luster Japanese holly, 18 to 24 inches tall. So
There was some question as to screening of headlights.
correct. So we had revised, that was part of our landscape revision. The landscape along the north side, or the north side of the property there, or west side, where the drive-through lights would be shining. We have proposed arborvitae trees there. I believe 5 to 6 foot in nature, so that they would, block the vehicle lights shining onto Center Ridge Road.
Now, when you construct the thing, I noticed that the elevation is higher on the lot than it is on the parking lot for the strip mall there. So what do? Do you drop it down to the same level so that?
We have not gotten our final grading plan from our civil engineer yet, but I would imagine that he will be stripping the topsoil off, adjusting grades. But the purpose of the parking lot there is that it's all going to sheet drain to the bioswale retention area, which is the stone area to the south of that sidewalk. So, and then that will filter through that and then tie into all these existing stormwater.
Good, okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
I did hear the term, and you caught my ear, modular construction?
Yes, that's correct.
And who's manufacturer?
So the manufacturer is actually B-Cube Manufacturing. They're out of Michigan. So when they submit their package, they basically have building official approval, and then it's modular, built in controlled environment, and shipped in different pieces, and then it's set up in one day on foundations that we build in the ground and get inspected through the city. So in about a day, the coffee shop's there. So it's pretty unique construction.
I understand, but
Yep.
unfortunately, not subject to real estate taxes. Because modular buildings are considered equipment.
I'm not familiar with that.
I am.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. Sure.
Victor Corrala, I'm the real estate broker. My address is 24500 Chagrin Boulevard, Beechwood. So based on the lease that we signed, I mean, we do pay a real estate tax to the landlord, and it's on a pro rata share.
Okay, that's fine. It's just modular buildings are considered equipment, so they are considered not taxable by real estate. I was in the business for 30 years.
Okay. Alrighty.
I'm not objecting, I'm just pointing out.
Sure. Mr. Chairman, go ahead.
Just a question for my council, my friend here. So the building itself isn't taxed, the real
That's
estate
correct.
taxes, but the improvements of the property will be taxed.
Yeah, probably, but the building itself, no,
That's interesting, thank you.
unless they decide to pay it voluntarily.
I guess I have a quick question. Does the existing storm, I assume it's underground retention, does it have enough capacity for this additional impervious area?
The additional storm, I believe, collects on 2 different retention ponds on the south side of Aldi Plaza. And then it's very minimal impervious area that we're adding based on the overall asphalt parking lot that's out there.
So there is excess capacity.
There's enough room for what we're adding here, correct?
Okay. All right. Is there any other further questions or comments from the commission?
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
One other comment. I do like the idea that you are gonna have a walk-up window as well. Good
Yep.
idea.
Is there any questions or comments from the administration?
Mr. Chair, just again, appreciation for the applicant. I think we moved this building in every possible configuration, given the odd little size of this scrap of green space that's left, plus a utility easement, plus an existing parking lot, and they would not be deterred and finally discovered a layout that met the queuing, met the bypass, met the setbacks. They worked with us on some landscape enhancements, so just appreciate that, and making all those revisions and submitting additional information, so. Looks like a good project.
Thank you.
Is there any questions or comments from the general public? Go ahead, Councilwoman.
Holly Swank, 36259 Center Ridge. I was curious if it's coming out of Ranger Way, has there been consideration to school traffic and bus traffic, and what if cars have to block to get in?
Well, there is currently shown 10 space stacking, but that is still well within the site. If cars were to stack beyond that, I don't know that you did a study about how many you could contain, but vastly more than that. Because of the of where the curb cut is to Ranger, when you see the car stacking on the, well, Tina, can you maybe pull up the queuing? You can see on this sheet where the entrance starts, but you can see how far in the site that is from where the actual curb cut is. So I don't believe that there's a likelihood that we're ever gonna get to the point where that traffic is actually all the way out onto Ranger Way with the quick service time of quick coffee versus like food and those types of things.
Okay, thank you.
I guess a question for the applicant, is it just coffee or is there food as well? And what is your average service time, if you will?
We have a limited food menu, mostly consisting of breakfast items. So we do offer a variety of bagels, muffins, donuts, and breakfast sandwiches. So your basic ham, egg, cheese kind of oriented sandwiches. But the majority of the business is coffee-based drinks. And then in terms of average service time, okay, about 3.5 minutes.
3.5 minutes per car?
From ordering through departure.
And where's the order location?
It's roughly 4 cars back
Yeah.
from the drive-through window. If you go back to the other site plan that you had pulled up. One more. So just to the right side of that rock bioswale area, you can kind of see the menu board there. So it's roughly at the 4th car is kind of their sweet spot for getting an order and being able to process them through by the time they get through the window. So from the point of order to the point that they are leaving the drive-through is roughly 3.5 minutes.
Okay. All right. Is there any other further questions or comments from the general public?
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
if I could, I can't remember if we talked about it in the work session or not, but it's not a split, it's part of the shopping complex, correct? So I think we had mentioned this before with another project, but as far as cross-access easement and shared utilities, is there an agreement with the complex? So when you make your final submission, I would ask that you give us a copy of that as well then. Thank you.
Okay. Is there any further questions or comments from the commission? All right, hearing none, the chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the B-Cube Big B Coffee project.
Do I have a second?
I will second it.
Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Ali,
Yes.
Grotman,
Yes.
Schuman,
Yes.
Havens,
Yes.
Smolik.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, our last order of business tonight is a zoning code update. This is proposed amendments of chapter 1292, non-conforming uses. Okay, go ahead, Ms. Lieber.
Mr. Chair, this is a continuation of chipping away at some of the code chapters that I think require updating. Many of our chapters exist from the 1960s. This is a good example of one that I think needed a fresh look and seemed kind of like low-hanging fruit. So I wanted to present this to the commission as a first look for either your continued discussion or recommendation to council. Some of the concerns that came up in regards to some properties in the city that currently may have property maintenance violations against them, it was brought to my attention that, you know, if a structure were destroyed, for example, by fire, that currently this chapter would allow reconstruction started within 1 year and completed within 2 years. So it's very unusual for communities to allow non-conforming structures to be fully rebuilt up to 2 years after they're destroyed when, again, by nature, a non-conforming building or structure does not belong in that district. It might have been grandfathered in or it might have predated a code, but to allow complete reconstruction of a destroyed building is not really current planning in terms of how we think about addressing non-conforming structures. So that kind of caught my eye as unusual. The other thing that caught my eye as unusual is the voluntary discontinuation of uses, also 2 years or more. So, you know, again, that's a very long period of time to allow for voluntary discontinuation. So at 1 year and 11 months and 11 days that use could resume. Again, the non-conforming chapter is there to be an outlet for uses that existed legally at the time they were built or implemented, but then because changes in zoning or have created a situation where those uses or structures are no longer meet code. So the goal is to allow that property owner continued usefulness of their land or the building, but not to also provide for a transition for that use or that building to become conforming in the future. So I found some of those timeframes and some of that language to just open the door way too wide, and that might not ever result in kind of that hoped for compliance. So again, you know, some of this language dates from 1966. So it felt like it was time to take just a set of fresh eyes on it. So, you know, it continues to allow nonconformities to continue after the effective date of this ordinance, so long as it's maintained otherwise in compliance with our ordinances. The next section I proposed talks about, you know, how nonconforming structures can continue to be used or modified. So repair, maintenance, alteration, additions, all those things can be done so long as that no new nonconforming condition is created or made worse. So that if, for example, if there's a building that is encroaching into a setback, that one could alter it, but you can't further encroach into the setback, get closer to the property line, closer to the neighbor. Also, if a non-conforming structure would be moved, that it would also have to be made conforming at that point. And then the removal or reconstruction. So I think a more typical standard, rather than that completely demolished can still build in 2 years, tends to be this 50% or more of the total floor area. So that is what I'm proposing in this case, or 50% of a replacement value. So if there was a fire or if there was a storm and something were damaged beyond that, then it would lose its non-conforming status. Keep in mind that unique situations always occur. You make rules for the majority, but there's always a time when, you know, I can imagine maybe there might be something of historical significance that is considered non-conforming, and if it were damaged by more than 50%, that might be a compelling reason for the BZA to grant a variance, for example, to allow the continuation of that building or use. But again, for the other 99% of the time, this allows us to start to move towards greater compliance in our buildings and uses. And I kind of separated out in this proposed version structures versus uses. So, not every nonconformity is about a building. It might be how a property is otherwise used or other features of that property. So it talks about, that use section talks about changes in use, and again, that voluntary discontinued uses shrinks that 2-year window down to 1 year. 12 months. So whether it's vacant or it kind of goes through some examples of what voluntary discontinuance would be. So vacancy, disconnection of essential utilities, or removal without replacement of equipment and furnishings that would be related to that use. And then also we have in here a little section on accessory uses. So you can't continue an accessory use to a nonconforming use if that principal nonconforming use has been discontinued. So I think that kind of makes sense. The accessory is accessory to a principal, and if the principal is no longer there, the accessory should also be discontinued. So again, this is like the first look you have at this, and so I welcome your questions, your conversation, and ultimately, if you feel comfortable tonight, you can make a recommendation. If you wish to discuss, have questions, come back, revisit, make amendments, there's not like a urgent matter that is driving this. It was simply brought to my attention, and it felt a little overdue for a little attention, so that's why it's before you tonight.
Okay, does the commission have any questions or comments on this non-conforming use chapter?
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
So who determines 50%? The building department?
Well, the floor area is a calculation that we can do based upon our records, and then of construction value, I imagine a contractor would submit that, and the building official would review and determine if that seemed like adequate documentation.
So this would include neglect? If a
Yes.
building was neglected to the point where 50% of it was,
I suppose it could.
okay, that's good.
Okay, is there any other questions or comments?
Yeah, a question I would have is, as it pertains to businesses that open up or operate in non-conforming zoning areas, can this be used to force them out or cease operations?
So again, non-conforming, this chapter deals with uses that were otherwise legal at the time they were established. So if there was a business that opened in a district where it should never have opened in the first place, that's an illegal non-conforming use, and the city could take action on that business regardless of this chapter. If the business existed legally and then the district was changed, then this chapter comes into play, and then they're protected by this chapter up until they discontinue or demolish or move or that kind of thing.
Is there any other questions or comments? I guess, would the commission like additional time on this subject, or are we perhaps ready for a motion? We could have discussion on this right now.
Mr. Chairman, I think Ms. Lieber kind of explained it pretty well. I don't think there's much left to say, to be honest with you, at least the way I understand it.
I would agree with you. I think she did a good job on this chapter, like the other chapters. I appreciate it. It makes it easier for us.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to make sure there's nothing in your rules or bylaws that prevents you from acting on this. I guess I'm addressing this to Tina because she's more, okay. I just wanted to be sure. Go.
Okay. All right. Is there any other further questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
I'd feel very comfortable voting for this tonight.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, I guess at this time, the chair will entertain a motion.
I move that we, Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the proposed amendment of Chapter 1292 as outlined by Ms. Lieber.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Madam Secretary, please call roll.
Ali,
Yes.
Grotman,
Yes.
Schuman,
Yes.
Abens,
Yes.
Smolik.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Okay, at this time, City of North Ridgeville Planning Commission meeting for June 13th,